minutes. We're giving the majority leader a couple extra minutes to get here. He's Lou Greenwald is going to be with us tonight. He's I shouldn't say this. He can be tardy every once in a while. So he's coming from an important state, but listen, he's always a little bit behind, no matter what. So we're going to give him just a few more minutes and see where he's at, and then we're going to get started and listen to whatever you want to talk about. Okay? All right?
No, I was gonna say, my sister's gonna be.
We're gonna open the bar in the meantime.
I showed her pictures of sunset or sunrise with this church, and swear to God, you just get rid of these flowers. It looks like England, you know, it's, yeah, it's that Anglican, yes. It's, and it's just even the stone and the way the sun is clear. And of course, we have the other church, that, so we have the steeple, the white church on down there. Yes, and what's amazing, I have my little tiny front, stand, you know, square yards in the front, and I always feed my birds out there. I used to look for feeders until I saw one day, and I was feeding them, and I'm looking out as this, you know, filling a bird, and on this part was the balcony, and across was the hall. They were both waiting for their meals. Now we just throw it on the ground, and they have places to hide.
For service. And they said, do a survey of our membership. I said, okay. So put together the survey.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, my sister just reminded me. My sister was and her son, of course, had to beat them. They had a, yeah.
So, hello, thank you, everyone. Our guest is here, and I joked with him a little bit that sometimes it's known that you can be a little tardy, sometimes, but he actually was doing some things, some state work up in New Brunswick, and made pretty good time. But we're happy to have with us Assembly Majority Leader Lou Greenwald, who's been a very close friend, not just of mine, Rob's, Morgan's, but of the borough for a very long time. Been a great help for us. And he's here just to talk any state issues and talk to you a little bit I'll let him know our format, just as let all of you. We've been doing these town forums for over 20 years now. The agenda gets set by you. It's as informal as possible. We will just have a few things to talk about at the beginning, and then we open it up for whatever you want to talk about, questions, comments, complaints, compliments, whatever it is you want to go over, we'll go over that. We have always found this a really effective way to learn what's important in neighborhoods, what's happening, answer any questions. If you've read about horrible rumors on Facebook, this is a great way to try to answer that. We're live streaming this as we have for long, even before pandemic. So we'll also be answering any questions people have online. So let's start off with Commissioner Robinson.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming out. As we get out into the world, spring, beautiful weather, I just want to remind everybody that the new Sunset Music Series starts tomorrow on Powell Lane, and it's a super fun band called Snack Time. Their star is rising. It's your chance to see them for free. It's at 6 o'clock. And the other thing, my regular request lately has been if you have an hour of your day on Mayfair, the 28th, we're always looking for people to help, specifically in the breakdown part of the late afternoon. Then you can get information for that on our website, Hollingsworth.com. Thanks for coming out.
Commissioner Lewandowski.
Thank you, Mayor. So two things. First of all, I got a sweet $1 bill here. Sweet $1 bill. Anyone who can tell me the name of the street between Collingswood High School and the middle school. And it can't be our public works director or deputy chief of police. Anyone know the name of it? We're really talking about the parking lot between it's Oxford Avenue, people, and I'm ashamed of all of you. I'm ashamed of all of you. And you want to know why I know it? You want to know why? Because I'm a band parent. And today I was driving a 26-foot box truck that's going to be filled with band equipment for a 4-day band tournament. And I was backing up and I hit a car. So my apologies out there to the fine young man whose car I hit. It's really hard to back up a 26-foot truck. And I learned something new today. Oxford Avenue. So there you go.
We feel for you.
I feel for a lot of people. So just one other thing, and sort of related, I was thinking about it when Morgan was talking about the concert series and talking about Mayfair. I was thinking about experiential marketing, right? We do a lot of events, right? We do a lot of events on the Avenue, right? Mayfair, concerts, we have second Saturdays, you know, we've got strolling towns and Christmas, my gosh, and the hot winter holidays, all the things we do. And we do them because we do like to have fun in college, right? We absolutely do. And we do them as a service to our residents, but we also do it for another reason. It's because it's important to us that we compete economically against our competitors. As a town, as supporters of our local businesses, and who are we competing against? We're competing against the Amazons, we're competing against our Targets, we're competing against Cherry Hill Mall, we're competing against other towns, we're competing against all those things. Now, we can't always have the lowest prices, right? It's really hard to do it. And it's really hard to compete against, you know, when you can sit on your couch and just press a button. But what we can do is create experiences, create the opportunity through events and programming to sort of allow people, both our residents and our visitors, to develop a relationship with college, to develop something beyond, where they feel a better understanding of loyalty, to feel good about the town, and to come back here and to shop here. And it's a really critical thing that we do. So when we talk about the events we do, and sometimes we have them and sometimes we do, right? We used to have cruise nights. And cruise night went away, right? And a lot of it was based on feedback from business. You know, and because we do things to have fun, we want to have fun, but we also need to serve other goals, right? We want to make sure that it's things that help support our downtown, support our businesses. So I want you to think about the idea that when we do these things, that there's many goals. Experiential marketing is a really important thing that we do because we all need a vibrant, strong downtown. I think we want it for ourselves. I think we want it for our property values. And I think we want it for our businesses. So I just wanted to share that because it's a thing that as public servants, as community volunteers, people who care about the community, that we think about when we do our program. So I just wanted to share that little bit, something I was thinking about. So this time will really be yours. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Professor Lewandowski.
There you go.
All right. Our Assembly Majority Leader, Lou Greenwald, we'll talk a little bit. Anything going on at the state? Anything we should know about?
We're in a budget cycle right now, so we're getting ready to put the budget together, and we have a budget this year with no new taxes and record amount of funding for public education. Collingswood is getting an additional 2% for a record high in college public education funding. It's a budget that fully funds the pension for the first time in 25 years, 2 years in a row, $6.8 billion funding for the pension. And significant property tax rate. It has a $650 million increase in public education funding, an additional $600 million in pre-K funding, because after the pandemic, we've seen families struggle as they're going back to work. And what do we do with our children in that tug of war? And we know what that's like, being a father of 3 children. My wife and I, when we went through it, we know that feeling very well. And we're having a real conversation because in spite of all of that, if you think of these numbers, the numbers are immense. $6.8 billion 2 years in a row into the pension, over $10 billion in public education funding, $10 billion in public 1 year, $10 billion. Additional $600 million, additional $600 million. That's combined almost $1.3 billion in funding to help offset that. $1.5 billion in municipal aid for property tax relief. Out of a $41 billion budget, over 50%, $21.5 billion goes into direct or indirect property tax relief. And in spite of the great work by your local community leaders, families feel that pinch of property taxes. So we are looking to assemble a group of outsiders from Rutgers University, maybe Stockton, Rowan, as well as professionals from the CPA Association and others. We did this a couple of years ago on efficiencies. Something that your community does very well in sharing services and finding ways to reduce. We're putting incentives in for towns to discuss consolidating school districts, because only in New Jersey could you have 608 school districts in 567 municipalities. So that's right, we have more school districts than towns. So having that conversation, a way to do it efficiently and not sacrifice quality, are the types of things we're talking about. But we want to bring those groups that we did to find those efficiencies before back to the table to look at what other states are doing to fund local government. One of the standards that we're trying to set, we should be very proud in New Jersey. We have the #1 public education system ranked, #1 public education system in the country 3 years in a row. And that's an asset that draws people to us. A few years ago, we restructured the Transportation Trust Fund. At the time, we had it, and we did that in a bipartisan fashion with Governor Christie at the time. We had a D- rating on our roads and bridges. We've made steady improvement. You're not going to flip a switch and overnight, but in that short period of time, we've gone to a C+ range. And now with the investment from the White House and the Biden administration nationally into infrastructure development, we can grow that even more. All of that brings assets into our community, helps attract businesses. And with that public education system, you have a world-class workforce right here, but it needs to be affordable for families. And that's why we want to bring this group together again to look at what other states are doing to fund local governments. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys for your questions, but I'll just leave you with this. The #1 state that people leave New Jersey to relocate to, we're shocked by it. It's not Florida. Everybody thinks it's the sunbirds going to Florida. It's not Delaware. It's not Delaware, it's some of the lowest taxes. It's not Virginia or North Carolina or South Carolina. It's
Pennsylvania.
You go right over the bridge to Pennsylvania, and there's something
Beautiful, yeah.
interesting in their local tax structure of what they do to offset.
Yes.
And what we would do with this is try to not cut and eliminate government. It's where we draw our revenues from. To me, from the property tax base, funding all local government is really one of the most discriminatory taxes against seniors on fixed incomes. And for people like my children who are starting their careers, they have choices. So that's what we're excited about. That's what we're working on. I love this town. You know, I just want to echo Crash's words over here with my buddy Rob, who Concord is an experience. And I will tell you, it is, I mean this sincerely, it's one of my favorite towns. I'm very disappointed in my years in the state legislature. It's the only office I've ever held. Collingswood has always been in my district. And every 10 years we go through a process of redistricting and we lost Collingswood. But I'm here because I love this town. And I will tell you, some of my best memories are from this town. And whether it was after the tragedy of September 11th and we stood on the main street in front of thousands of people and rallied as a community was one of the most memorable experiences. And for my family, whether it was the holiday parades, or to this day, they talk about the haunted Halloween ride in the park, which I don't know if we're still doing, but we ought to bring.
Just started back up again.
We had people on zip lines coming out of the trees, and my kids were bedazzled by the experience. And it is an experience, and it is a memory. And it's what makes Collingswood great. It is really an American success story. I'm very lucky to be here. You have great local representatives. I'm very proud to have represented you for the last 27 years. We're not going away. We're a phone call away if you need anything. You're getting some great new elected officials, but we hope you don't forget about us, and we hope you'll lean on us and call us if you need anything, because I do. I love the town. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks, Louis. Now, wait, we're not in your district anymore?
You still are for the next 18
But,
months. So.
but you know, Assemblyman, you know, we are so appreciative for everything. So truly, and we will miss you so much, but we were so delighted to find out that the Assembly Majority position stays in Collingswood. So
Okay.
we thank you for
Still Spearman will be happy to hear that.
So I'm going to give you one little update on a process that we're going through, which is trying to work with the school district, and for all of our kind of recreation programs, we've hired a consultant. We have a little committee together to work on recreation fields, arts facilities, trying to begin a process to help identify what the needs of our community are. Our trouble is that we have so many people that want to do things, so many kids that want to do things, and we don't have the space. We just don't have the places to do it all. There's not really a great movement to take Knight Park and make it the biggest sports field complex you've ever seen. So we're kind of in a process to try to help identify how we can do things. Using back where the high school football stadium was, redo that in a way that can be used by the community and the schools. Start that process to figure out how we can do it in a way that doesn't break the bank. So we're beginning that process now. We've selected somebody, a committee's been working, actually worked with the consultant, just got underway formally today. So that's all I'm gonna talk. What do you guys want to talk about? Questions, comments? What are you here for? What are you going to talk about? Okay, thanks all for coming.
Look
Go ahead.
Don't look that way.
I'm Tom DeWolf.
Yep.
My question may be more oriented to some.
That's fine. Go for it.
There is a terrific initiative going on that in middle of the summer, there'll be a 988 hotline. For 988, right, hotline to relieve all the calls that go to 911 for mental and behavioral issues. And it will also help provide the right kind of support right at those fingertips. I know the Assembly's passed some things to get the Department of Human Services to start the planning. Can you bring us up to date? Because this will also help relieve the additional burden that's put on our police officers for those kind of issues. But there's an issue about funding that I read that is a toss-up in the Senate in Trenton. And I was wondering if you could bring us up to date on that and tell us how we might be able to influence a successful completion.
So my staff is standing in the back of the room, and we are in, as I said, we are in the middle of budget negotiations right now. I appreciate you recognizing that this has not come up on the assembly side. I think, you know, from all indications we've had, this is a good idea, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we've worked on. The way our process works is the assembly is meeting right now, paring down the governor's budget message that he gives in February, March. We're completing committee hearings. We had our public hearings with the public. This is an issue that was mentioned once. Good idea, got support. We are putting together we're putting our fingerprints on that budget now. We are committed to doing this in a way that continues the things that we talked about, fully funding the pension, maintaining a healthy surplus, because we haven't had that in years past. This budget has a $6 billion surplus. We've learned after the pandemic, we need things like that. But we are fine tuning it with programs like the one you talked about. A few years ago, I don't know if you're familiar, we actually created a 211 program because 911 was inundated as well. It was a very successful program. It got cut during the Christie administration. We started to have conversations about how to revise it. And that's where some of the folks came up with the idea on 988. I'm very interested in it because my staff and I have worked very closely to expand access to mental health and behavioral health services. And we've seen a dramatic increase of children 18 and under, all right, presenting in the emergency room. Think about this, with dramatic increases in percentages of kids 18 and under with anxiety and depression. And we know on our teens, 1 out of every 5 teens in the country, New Jersey is excluded from this, has contemplated suicide. And that age group from 5 to 11 had a dramatic increase in children suffering with anxiety and depression. Think about some of these kids. They're 6 and 7 now, going to school for the first time, integrating in a classroom. That's a stressor, right? So we're dealing with this. And what we're doing is bringing volunteers in who can get tax credits, who are professionals in psychiatry, behavioral health specialists into the school. And we are also working with graduates who are coming out of our colleges and universities that can do their residency programs in the schools to offset. It will also, one of the things that I think would matter to you as you bring this up, we know if a child is struggling with one of these issues, it's probably in the family, right? And look, we saw 17% unemployment during the pandemic. You lose your job, you lose your health insurance, medication gets altered, stressors happen. So if we identify a child in distress, these professionals that are going to be in the school through no cost to the taxpayer, none of this will be added to the public school budget. We're going to be able to reach out to the families as well. So they're not going to be limited just to the kids. They're going to be able to go to the parents and any of the adults that are in the household or any other siblings. So that we are looking at the schools as an access point. Your idea on the 988 program is, to me, a critical component of that, because we can identify families in distress that way, or we can educate the families while they're coming through the school. If you see a crisis, if you see a relapse, if something happens, use the 988 number. So I don't think you need to do anything. I could tell you to reach out to your senators. That Jim Beach is in alignment with us. I think it's, let us get through this budget process. It's going to be a part of the discussion. This is not an expensive item. And I think there's a lot of ways, and some of the other things that we're talking about with consolidation and government services that we're doing with 911 and EMT, this fits in nicely. So I don't want you to take it for granted. You're absolutely right to bring it up, but you don't need a homework assignment. I think we're okay. And we're on top of it. We will be tracking it. Okay.
Who else? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that I am very proud of the state of New Jersey for the May 4th ban on plastic, single-use plastic bags in stores and businesses, and I applaud that. It's a great step forward.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, Stacey Greenberg, local business owner. So I'm seeing the cannabis explosion happen. And I'd just like to hear what our area, look, I'd love to get some of that work. Somebody's over there before, but I just want to hear how what's happening legitimately and in terms of Collinswood area or.
So I can tell you locally, the area that we've designated is Route 130. There's interest, there's 2 properties that are under agreement. One has a license already, a medical license, which is one of the industrial buildings kind of on the other side of 130. I'm not sure if they're just dispensing. The rules now are going to be, if you have a medical license, you're going to be able to sell recreational automatically. So I don't think they're growing, right, Cassandra? I don't think there's any growing. Yeah, so it's no grow, it's only dispensing. And then another entity that just filed some things with us that we're looking at is has actually the Collinswood Diner under agreement about doing a retail. Yeah, you know what? I remember the early days of Collinswood Diner is where Philadelphia mobsters went to rest in trunks. We found a lot of, you know, the big guys that got hit in Philly would always end up in a trunk in the diner's parking lot.
So you say you sit at full circle.
I don't know. It just seems, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of churches at that location. Okay? So that's the other location. A lot of people have been kicking tires, but a lot of people now, and I'll tell you just from my work, a lot of people believe they're in the cannabis business because they know somebody that smoked a joint once. These entities are more legitimate. It's funny to say that, but more legitimate with financing and real and.
So is there a list that a business owner can go ahead and?
Well, not yet, no. Right now, they're just the one, well, we would have to take action on the one group, the diner group. We would have to do an endorsement letter for them that they will be as part of their application. So the one on the industrial site, they have a license already, okay? So there's nothing they need from us. They're just gonna come in for site plan, just like a business opening up, okay? When they file something officially, you'll be able to get that, okay? The other group has to get a license. So there's a whole process they have to go with the state. One of the things they need in that application to get a license is something from the local authority saying, we support this at this location. It fits our rules. They could open this year, okay? And that's what they've asked for from us.
Yeah, I went on the state of New Jersey's, you know, when the information came out, and it's quite vague how you find out.
They can tell, you can get a list of like who got licenses, but it doesn't necessarily tell you where that is. Yeah, where their location is. So it's still early. Like nobody's they got properties under agreement. We haven't seen any on the one, we haven't seen any application for site plan, right, Gretchen? Nothing. We know that they're coming, but we haven't gotten anything yet. Okay. You want to talk generically about it?
So 13 licenses were just approved. Right, I think last Monday. You should be very proud. There are 2 South Jersey members who have really earned great distinction. When we created this as a legislative body and it passed by the voters, one of the things that we decided, I think intelligently, was we didn't have experience in this business. And I think as great as I love a citizens legislature, we are creating a new entity, a new business venture, a new product. And if you love history, to me, this must have been what it was like when Prohibition, right? So we decided to create a commission that would hire full-time experts that would guide us through this process. And 2 of those, one is a gentleman named Jeff Lamb from Cherry Hill, and another is a wonderful lady by the name of Krista Nash. And the commission has gotten national recognition for the thoughtfulness with which they've rolled out the regulations. So that's all positive. There is a second wave of licensure application that they're actually in the pipeline. It's good. But this is what I call an evolving period. And some of my colleagues in Trenton who were active in this legislation, I think wanted to be done and over. And I have cautioned that we need to be nimble. And one of the issues that has come up is a discrepancy between what some legal experts have interpreted the federal law and locally as to whether or not our friends in law enforcement, when they are off duty, should be able to participate in recreational use. I have received calls from many of my friends who are police chiefs and represent the unions, and I kind of share their opinion that they shouldn't be. Because until we have that test that can determine whether or not they are under the influence, marijuana will stay in your system after you ingest it for somewhere, we think, between 8 to 30 days. And our men and women in uniform are in very difficult jobs, and I think could ultimately hurt them and their careers if they're in a chase, if there's an accident, if someone gets injured, and someone might say, we can't prove that they didn't ingest it an hour ago or 8 days ago. So we're going to be looking to some clarity for this and try to define this, but it's an example of, I think this is an industry that's going to evolve. And I think there's going to be great advancements also, because I do think someone's going to make a fortune, because that test, like we have with blood alcohol, is going to come out, and where there's opportunity, there is ingenuity. And so I will say that. And then the other thing you should know is I'm very interested in the medicinal purposes of this. And, I have a daughter who's, my life and beautiful young lady. She's in her second year of law school. At 12, she woke up one day with epilepsy. And thankfully she's managed. But we had a constituent in a family from Maple Shade that could not get their child seizure free except for the use of oil-based medical marijuana. And I think we are at a tipping point of a remarkable time in history where we're going to learn a lot from this and healing properties. And the way this is being built out, everyone should know, while we are expanding recreational, the supply for medicinal is first and foremost, and it's rock solid, and it's not going away. So you're seeing, if you're reading some of the papers, some people are waiting. Maybe they go in on a Tuesday, have to place an order and come back because they are protecting that medicinal side first. But as we start to ramp this up and more licensures are granted, and we can start to target what this demand is, the supply, we are on pace to be able to meet all of that.
Is there any rule about how many businesses there can be within a 10 square mile area or anything like that?
Towns can do that. We have not done that. What we have done instead is we structured this as it's an amendment to a redevelopment plan out along Route 130. Okay, and in order to take advantage of the zoning that allows for cannabis use, you have to have a redevelopment agreement with the borough. You have to have an agreement with us, separate and apart. Okay, so that's kind of the mechanism that we've built in that gives us control over who, what, where. Okay, you can't just be arbitrary. You can't be nilly and say, nah, not you, but you. Can't just give it to my brother-in-law, right? Yeah. But it gives us some level of control that if we're concerned that there's too many, there's not, 130 is all designated, but you have to be so much distance from a school. There's part of Lou's making reference how this is evolving, and police officers use this one area. I can tell you from my work in cultivation, so you can only grow this stuff inside buildings. So think of warehouses that are have a glass roof, right? But one of the emerging issues is odor control, okay? Because it's nearly impossible to control while it's growing, never mind doing anything with it. So towns are evolving into how are we controlling this? How far does it have to be from people? Where does it have to be? What are all those factors? As those things develop, the redevelopment process gives us the ability to say, you know what, this is important to us now. We're not going to be doing agreements for folks with this in this location. Okay.
And one of the challenges for us as commissioners is we were asked to make decisions by a certain date before the actual rules were put out by the commission.
Right.
So, we made decisions that we wanted to start a little restrictive because you can ease things later, but without knowing all the facts, it's really difficult to sort of, make decisions, so.
So there's gonna be a lot of discretion in the towns. I'm one voice in this, but my view on this is there's like two silos. To me, there's one view of it like a pharmacy, and then there's one view of it like a liquor store. So for the medicinal purposes, we can create oils, we can create compound creams. You know, you can have a pill-like substance. So if
I'm
you-
aware of all
right? So if you're dealing with a seizure or arthritis, you don't, the medicinal side doesn't have to have the high, I guess, I'm not as experienced in this as some of my friends, I won't leave names. But I would just say you can do this without having the high. But on the other side, just like going to a liquor store, it is a remarkable, I mean, we toured a couple of them and they're beautifully done. You know, I think I will tell you, it is, you feel like you're going almost into an Apple store. They are very knowledgeable behind, you know, people should not be embarrassed to ask questions. But I see that side more like liquor license where we limited the population. I think that's where we'll get to at some
Yeah,
point.
I
You
think
don't,
that's good. I mean, I'm in favor of having them, but I also think they need to be controlled to some extent. I mean, how many do we need? How many do we want? You know,
well, I'll tell you another thing that I'm really excited about from a policy standpoint. We're allowing local municipalities to charge up to a 2% local option. So you can use that to help offset the property taxes and what if there is expense associated with law enforcement or traffic or whatever else. But it's an opportunity for us to start to delve into what I talked about earlier, different options than just pure property taxes to pay for local government.
Yeah.
Okay, who else? Yes, sir.
A question about the New Jersey Sabre program. When it first started, homestead rebate or whatever they call it, you filed like by the end of August, you got a check in November. It makes sense to me that now it's credited. But now I'm filing 2018 in 2021 for a 2022 credit. So 19, 20, 21, there's talk of some extra program this year to give, why can't we get the program caught up?
So this is an issue that's come up and we're working on a revision to it. And I'm going to explain it in layman's terms, so I hope I get it right for you, okay? My understanding of how this program works, if you're a senior citizen in an income level and you applied for the program, let's say in 2018, your property taxes are frozen in that number. However, when the increase comes in, you have to make the payment first and then you get a credit back. What I'm suggesting, and I think we're getting traction on, is I can understand why you would do that in the first year of your application because you're applying for it at that time and then the credit comes in. But then you're frozen in that year. As long as you stay in the program and you stay within the income eligibility limits, your number isn't changing. So once we get you into the program and in the first year, I believe that the state should pay the municipality directly as opposed to having you have to make your property tax payment and then get the credit back. Because we've had a couple of constituents come to us, and most recently we were at a town hall meeting like this in Gibbsboro, and there's a wonderful woman who her property taxes were frozen at around $4,200. They're now upward over $6,000, and her Social Security payment is only $6,600 a year, and she has to make all that payment to get a credit back. That to me, it seems like an antiquated system in today's technological age. We could modernize it a little bit.
And my question is, that sounds to me like the senior freeze program.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Property tax rebates.
the Sabre program, the New Jersey Sabre.
That's the rebate program,
Used to be the homestead rebate.
right? So it's
Like
got
I
a new,
said,
okay,
you used to file it and
I
get the
apologize.
check.
Yep.
Then they started giving credit on your taxes.
Yep,
But I'm saying you used to file it in the year that you got it.
right.
Most people in here, they filed the 2018 Sabre program
Right.
in 2021 for the credit we just got on our May taxes in 2022. So my question is, if there's extra money, why can't we get caught up? Why are we going from, why am I 2000? In other words, Christie stopped it one
Right.
year, the pandemic stopped
Yeah.
it one year. if there's money, why can't we get caught up? Why
So that's
we're still next,
Understood.
in other words, come August, I'm gonna file 2019.
Yep.
And
So I don't-
people have moved 2 or 3
Yeah.
times, there's
Right.
taxes involved. I
So,
don't understand.
the question is more complicated than I could possibly give you an answer to, it, right?
Well,
So, right, so
I
here,
want you to go
right.
to the
So here-
legislature
here's what-
and say, let's get this
right.
thing caught
So
up.
here, I don't know if this is gonna, I don't know if this is gonna make you happy or worse, but the governor's come up with a new acronym. He's calling it the Anchor Program. I think that's the worst name you could possibly ever come up with. So, but the good news is they're increasing it to this year. We're going to go from about $270 million on the rebate program. Let's call it that because it's the homestead rebate program, to $900 million. It's going to go from affecting about 470,000 households to 1.2 million homeowners and another 600,000 tenants. And that additional inflection of money should get everybody caught up. I don't know what you're applying for, what year to what. If you want to talk to our office, we'll try to help navigate
I
that.
don't think, I think everybody's in the same boat. It's
I don't
not
know,
me.
I don't know if it got paused or what. Here's what I can tell you.
Okay.
This is going to be ramped up over 3 years, where you're going to go to what this year is going to be about a $700 rebate. And it's going to ramp itself up to somewhere around $1,200 to $1,300 rebate for families based on income levels. It's a good idea. It's a good program, but for all the reasons you just said, to me, it's not sustainable. It comes, it goes. A new governor comes in, he or she eliminates it. Someone else comes in, they put it back in, they put it in for seniors, they do a little bit for tenants. Now we're going to ramp it up for 1.8 million households. I would rather have the conversation that I want to talk about around true property tax reform, and then take that money and give it directly back and lower it off the property tax bill. Everything that I want to do is getting this property tax bill down, because the rest of it, it's a good program and it's real relief, and I don't mean to minimize it, but it's a little Band-Aid-ish to me. It doesn't, and it doesn't remain. It comes and goes. And to me, I'd rather have it be a permanent form of a tax restructure.
Isn't the state still on the hook for the 2019 rebate, the 2020 rebate, and the 20?
Sir, if
In
you-
other words,
yeah,
I'm
if
gonna
you-
be filing, a 2024
If you-
before I get my.
Yeah, if you've, I don't, to be honest with you, because I don't apply, I haven't qualified for that rebate as a senior, so I haven't personally
It's
done
not,
that, right?
it's a homeowner program.
Right,
It's not
right.
a senior program.
But it's income limited, and there's more for seniors. There's a higher amount for seniors. If you've applied for it, then it's in, and you can work with our office, and we'll try to help
Yeah.
coordinate the answer.
The crew that's here can help guide on that and try to find out whether or not there's catch up, right? It's not just like ramping up the number. You're talking more about,
What's already been.
don't
applied.
ramp it up, catch us
Gentleman
up,
that's talking about
applying
getting-
22 for
There's
22.
a program this year, the Anchor program. I'm saying, why don't they take that
Well,
money and
Yeah, I
catch the
got you.
homeowners
Yeah,
I
up
got
to
you.
19,
So-
20, and 21?
Yeah, and I'll take one.
Get us back on target. Get us back on target.
If you've made applications that you're waiting for those checks.
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
They take credit.
It's just
on
been
our-
delayed.
On our May tax.
Yep. And then the other thing is they are taking all of those programs and consolidating them into the Anchor program. So the catch up may not be necessary because it's going away, but if you're owed money, someone's owed money or credit, it'll come in.
It ain't guaranteed, just tell you that. It's only there, like Christie stopped it for the year, so they're trying to redo it, but they could have just as easily said, no, we're not covering it for those years we're starting to. So we'll see, we'll have to keep track. And you keep track with Lou's office. We can give you, I see David pulled out a card to give it to you so that you can email them directly
But they're
just to see
pulling-
what's happening with it, whether or
They're
not it's
pulling
gonna
all
go
the
that way.
programs into one.
Yeah.
Because this confusion is.
Yeah.
not helpful. Well, it's- yeah, it's an anchor.
Nancy, send me another question. off
Yeah,
the wall.
sure.
Home title theft. If it was something on the internet, which I don't go on, I wouldn't bring it up, but there's infomercials on television. There's advertisements on TV, they're trying to sell you insurance for this, where people go down, con men go down, they do a quick claim deed and get title to your house. There's one infomercial, it's a setting like this, and they sit down with somebody and they steal his title. My question is, I think it has to go through City Hall in Canton, which I believe is go in your district?
No,
No?
no. Yeah, but it goes through the courthouse. I
It
mean?
goes through the courthouse
Yep.
report. My question is, what is anything being done to try to stop
Yeah, I mean, it was
stop
obviously.
somebody from doing it?
Yeah.
I don't know. As a homeowner, when you see the ads, it just concerns me.
You know what, it's a great question. It's obviously a crime, it's part of fraud, we can look into it. We're an idea-based body, so we would have to take an idea like this and figure out how we would enhance the penalties or put investigative measures in to track it down.
And I'll tell you, I can tell you in my work, we see it a lot. We're solicitor in Paulsboro. And in Paulsboro, we see a lot of it on the other side. We see people coming in, somebody will, bad guys will go find an abandoned house, a house that's empty, and just go in and do a little work in it and then sell that house to somebody. Okay?
Right.
Sell them, just fill out a deed, give them a deed, boom, sell it to them for $25,000. People move in, and then later on, it comes to pass that like that guy never owned it to sell it to them. Okay, fraud that way, and the way really there are laws on the books to cover that. It all gets referred to prosecutor's office. Like there's not a good answer other than if you're gonna, for that side of it, if you're gonna buy a house, you get title insurance before you buy a house. Even if don't have a mortgage, you get title insurance. So you get somebody to run and make sure that that guy that's selling to you has title and someone insures that title to you. But yeah, I see it on the other side. No. Yeah, mortgage is needed, but a regular cash transaction you don't have to have title insurance.
Thing is, if you deal with any financial institution and
They're gonna want it.
and you change something, your PIN, your address, they send you a letter. In this infomercial, they talk that nobody tells you. And 6 months later, people are moving in your house because they quit claiming the deed 6 months earlier. So I would think there'd be, I don't know if maybe it's in Florida or Texas or Maine. I don't know if it's
Well,
even
if
around.
it's there, it's everywhere.
I'm just saying, I see it on, they talk about,
So they convince somebody to sign their title over?
no, they
don't need
get
They
your
just
name
fake
and address and they go down and they get a
Yeah,
quick
it's
claim
Fake.
deed.
I do a
They-
deed, Lou Greenwald, for your house, and I sign the deed, Lou Greenwald, and sell the house.
There's a way to do it.
Yeah.
But if,
It-
I'm just saying, I thought you were responsible or like someone in the courthouse, if you sent out a letter, I think any homeowner
It's
would be
not,
happy to pay $10 if I got a letter saying. my
yeah, I
house
hear
has
you.
been sold.
No, I got you, but like, the
That's-
reason it probably hasn't been done, and if it keeps going, it might, this way it might, but you typically don't send a letter to the guy that signed the deed saying he's selling his house. Like when you sell a
Well,
car,
I'm saying it would come to my. it would
I
come-
know, but when you sell a car,
Right.
right, you usually don't, there's no notice given to the guy who says he sold his car, signs the back of the title and transfers it. Like, it's not set up, I think it's not happening frequently enough that there's been special legislation set up for it.
I'm not saying legislate, I just wondered if there was a simple way.
Yeah, well, there have to
record
be,
The courthouse.
Yeah,
would
You'd have to
say,
create a law.
we have,
Yeah,
how
and
many quit claim deeds come through? I understand people sell a house and you get a deed and it gets returned,
yeah,
you pay a mortgage off, but
my
it's a
experience.
scary thing, that's
It's
all.
been addressed as fraud. It's being really addressed going after the guys that do it. It's happening more, but it's getting addressed as fraud. All right, what else we got? Who else? Yes,
The apartment complex proposal, just wanted an update on that. And my very first question is, whose idea was it to add more apartments to council?
so the status of the proposal on Haddon Avenue between Madison and Knight is kind of hit some bumpy roads right now. And that's the best I can tell you at this point. Whose idea to do, well, there's a developer that's come in with a proposal to do this building on a property that for the most part is pretty underutilized, pretty not much going on. The back, I know you all see the front on Haddon Ave, but the back is a bunch of garages that are not what you would call a really great use of the property. So right now it's in a bit of a limbo.
So as far as our leadership goes, you think that it's it's a good use to add more apartments to that area? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we've been open to considering.
And let me answer your question was, whose idea was it? Is the developer approached the property owners, not us, and got properties under agreement and then came to us. So it's private transactions that started this, not us saying, hey, there's land here, go take it. So that's the answer to your question.
We're also looking at the designs and trying to keep it fitting with the tenor of the avenue and of the town. And the designs we saw weren't doing that. And that's where the back and forth and the stall comes from, because we are watchdogs for how we live. And we don't want to just put up big boxes that encroach on the avenue and our neighbors.
My concern is adding more units that are rentals, they don't pay tax, same way.
Well, they do
And
pay
adding
tax.
more children to the schools.
Yeah,
That's a concern.
I got you. No, I hear you. It is not, those are all concerns we look at as we're looking at any kind of development. There's also great positives, okay? Apartments, and you ask any business owner on Haddon Avenue, apartments being based, the lumberyard project being based on the avenue, huge help for all those businesses out there. Having people that are oriented to live on that avenue. It's a very popular for young professionals and empty nesters. The lumberyard complex, the apartments, the condos, no children in our schools, none, okay? So it just doesn't happen,
Doesn't attract.
okay? Yeah, it's not built as a place where you will raise your family. There's not playground, there's not parks, it's not built for that. And so that complex that you've got there, which you've got 170 housing units all in, there's only, to my knowledge, there's only been one kid in school from there for the entire run. And that was because mom and dad sold the house when he was in his sophomore year of high school with the plan that they were downsizing, and they downsized sooner. And when he finished high school, he was out and there's no kids.
But it seems unlikely to me that no one with children would move into 150 units. And it is right there by the park, so it's automatically.
Well, it's on the other side of the train tracks from the park. It's
Yeah.
a hell of a walk to get to the park.
They could live there.
They could,
And I don't have a problem with kids.
but the
doing that.
units, yeah, the unit mix is not one that's conducive. It's not like 3 bedrooms. It's not conducive to that. So we'll see. And for right now, we ain't got nothing we're looking at for it. So we'll see. But if it is, there'll be some more public meetings. We'll be airing it all out.
So Ingerman dropped out? like
They didn't drop out. They didn't drop out. Things just are not moving as quickly as they would like.
I read
Okay, hang on one second. Let me get to some other folks, okay? And we'll get around to everybody. Yes, sir.
In the same tenor of that complex, the original vision was condos and townhouses?
No, not for this new project. It's all apartments.
It's all apartments.
All apartments.
So I will just say, you cannot compare what you were referring to with this new stuff, because it's two different, the Lumberjack has their townhouses with, I believe the entry level was like 350 back then. That was the selling point. So it tells you who will buy those houses. Plus the rental units, they were, kind of like in the high end. So you're attracting people from Philly. So I'm just afraid that if you decide to go that route, keep in mind who you want to attract overall. And, give it a thought a little deeper, because that will be something for further discussion.
It's a fair point, but it's the same developer. It's why we talk about it.
Well,
It's
these are
not
models,
who
but
we
yeah.
necessarily want to attract, right? We're not in the business of saying, you come, we want you or you, right? But
Yeah,
fair point, thank you.
That's fine, but just to take your example, compare just the apartments to these apartments, okay? That's fine. And you'll find, I don't know, we get some Philly, you get a lot, I've met in the apartments, empty nesters from everywhere. I mean, we have Haddonfield, but we have people from everywhere in there. And a lot of them it's kind of they're there temporarily while they're trying to figure out where do we want to live when we retire? We sold the big house. And a lot of them have decided, you know what, we're good. We're good right here. We're good. So, yeah, we'll see as we go along. Like Rob said, we're not like trying to pick up more people from, Center City, Philadelphia. We're just, we would like to attract empty nesters, young professionals, because they're people that help. The young professionals end up buying a house in town as they raise their family. The empty nesters have disposable income that come in and support our restaurants and our businesses, like a lot of good commerce comes out of all that.
And new development also includes 15%, at least 15% affordable housing.
Yep.
Which is good because we all know where prices are going, right? We know what's happening to our property values. A great thing if we own it, we also know what's happening to rent, right? They're all going up. So the idea of having more affordable housing is a good thing too.
My question
Okay,
is-
yes, go
is
ahead.
In regard to the same issue, that's why I wanted to
Yes,
ask.
I'm sorry, go right
I
ahead.
read the long article in the retrospect about that deal, and I got the impression it was totally done, but you're sounding like you're just waiting for it to bubble up again and then to change their mind or another company to come in.
So you want me to respond to an article you read in the retrospect?
Yes. You were quoted
It's
several
in-
times
Yeah.
as saying the deal was
I
done.
didn't read it. These folks still have the property under agreement. It's not, they're still interested in doing so.
Oh, they
okay.
are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yes.
But you're not gonna bend, from what I read, from what I understood, you weren't gonna bend your ways for what they wanted. So are they gonna change?
Well, I don't know.
You're hoping.
You're
hoping. You're
You know
hoping
me.
out.
You think I'm gonna bend like that for stuff that go, well, yeah, we'll see what comes. We'll see what comes.
So I'm trying to
Yes.
understand, it's definitely going to happen, there's gonna be a large apartment complex.
No, you're not. Let me say it again. It's in limbo. It's not going anywhere right now. No one said it's definitely going to happen. There's going to be apartments. It's like in a limbo. It's up in the air. It's not set. There's a difference of opinions as to what this should be and what direction there should be.
I'm trying to understand how much we have input into that happening.
It's done, it's over.
That's my feeling. It's done.
Listen, you have the
Talked about
same
last year.
input. You have the same input on this that, like Rob said, when somebody comes in is going to build a house on, in another part of town and they want to go build their house.
I think it's.
That's what happens.
I think it's really a lot of the town input that really has us at an impasse. And thankfully, I think we were all on the same page.
Yeah, I think.
We don't want a monstrosity that's gonna lean over Haddon Avenue. We don't want something that's gonna take the folks on West Nine, anywhere over there and ruin their quality of life. We don't want something that's gonna, put, great strain on our current infrastructure. So all the things that people are concerned about, those are the things that are creating the impasse. So I think it's, we've had several town halls where we've talked about that. Those were the things that are creating the impasse.
And listen, the projects that we have that have moved forward, that include apartments, that include condos, I think have pretty universally regarded as having a really positive impact on town. Okay, we would be expecting to do the same. Okay, if anything moves forward, we would be expecting to do the same. Okay, yeah, let me get some other, yes.
The way I look at it, it's not financially viable for the builder to do it right. You probably don't have enough units to generate enough. Yeah, that. And also the interest rates are going up.
Maybe. Maybe.
It's all-
Maybe.
Right? It's a matrix of things, and that may be part of it.
Don't know, could be. So we'll see. We'll see. Right now, there's not a project that's advancing. Yes.
Getting back to the plastic bag ban and the state law about that, is there any other environmental legislation being under consideration at this point? That's as important as that is?
Well, I'm excited about the wind turbines and what's going on there. I know there's a lot of controversy on people in the shore communities, but it's going to windmills off the ocean. So it's going to be as far as Long Island down to Cape May. They're going to be so far off in the distance, it's going to look like this water bottle. There's a manufacturing plant that's being built here in South Jersey to build it. So it's not only going to be for our state, it's going to create jobs and economic vitality. And we will be investing in manufacturing, which is for a state like New Jersey, that's really more of a professional service state. I think it's a great opportunity, and those turbines will be shipped to states all across the country. So that's exciting. And we've been talking to South Jersey industries that they think, and this sounds a little more far off in the distance, but I've learned in my career it happens like this. They think they, in the next 10 years, can convert to a hydrogen energy source in their South Jersey gas. So obviously, no impact on the carbon footprint, and something that they would use their existing infrastructure to help transport that. So there's a lot, I think there's a lot of interesting things. Those are just three off the top of my head that I've shared with you, but I think, you know, we're talking about this constantly, and, you know, I think, I think we don't argue about whether or not climate change is happening, which is a good thing. I think it's now a question of, how, you know, what can we do and how can we start to reverse it?
That's nice to
Investing a lot in electric charging stations up and down the state also. And we're seeing, and there was a great article the other day, an interview I saw with Ford from the manufacturing plant. They are excited about this new electric truck, and just to watch the men and women who are building the truck talk about, you know, this nostalgic American tradition, this Ford pickup truck, and how exciting it is to have it as an electric vehicle. We've come a long way.
Yeah. And there are going to be electric stations in town, right? Charging stations, there's planned.
Yeah, we've applied for, there's some grant money coming out of the state for it. We've gotten with through BPU, we've gotten in line for a bunch of them, some coming out online. Yes.
And this sort of way of looking at things, I have one question. I just read in the papers that they made a great job of getting set to build a new rail line down the river. And given the fact that we're trying to be green, why is it going to reduce the power?
The light rail?
The light rail? No, I don't know. It's going to Glassboro. I don't know. Is it diesel? It's diesel?
Yep.
Because the light rail that runs to Trenton, is it diesel or electric? The light rail? It's diesel? No. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good
question.
Here's the good news is that is a very important rail line that is going to help get people off the streets, and that's a missing link. I don't know what the ability to convert that is. I'd have to look at it. I'd be curious how we can convert. No, but I don't know how.
But it's better. It's still better.
Yeah.
Having a train running is still better. Getting those people off the road would be better. So it's better. I know it's not perfect, but it's better. Not us. Next. Yes.
My question is about electric cars. We have these apartments, we have people that own cars. Now, if I rent an apartment, am I guaranteed that I am going to have availability to plug my car in someplace? Look at the cities with all these rooms. I mean, what plans in the future are made for people to own electric cars and live in an apartment?
So yeah, there's more and more legal requirements that there be more built. Okay, more charging stations.
All new development.
There's
But I'm
new
talking about
developments.
the existence of the apartments now. They'll
You-
have to be reconstructed
Yeah.
in
Oh,
order to
and
put all, to implement.
you will see that's happening.
And then what's
Okay.
gonna happen to the rent of these
Well,
apartments?
I don't know. I don't know how they charge
I
for
mean,
it.
I really think it's a big problem.
Well, look at it this way. If you're, well, I don't know. I don't own any apartment complexes that I'm adding electric vehicles, electric charging stations.
You're right.
But-
The transition's is not gonna be, it's not gonna be seamless, and it's not gonna be easy. I think, I can see at some point where you're gonna see a level 3, which is very fast charging stations. Like where Collingswood's gonna almost need a singular property where you're gonna have many charging stations. Because you have, right, you have all the row homes, your apartments, and people can come and quickly get, whether it's 100%, 70%, 80% charge. And you're gonna have things like that. And private market is driving some of that. A lot of it's subsidized. But you're right, it's and you know, there are some things that are getting it there, but there's gonna be hiccups.
It's coming, but it's happening. It's happening. The industry's catching up. It is. It is. Who else? Yes.
I just want to say, I'm very happy with my trash and yard waste.
We went through some experiences. Just a little. I was gonna apply for a night job. You should have. You should have. What's that? Yeah, that's it. We're done. Yeah, thank you all so much for coming out.
We're gonna try to stay on top, because it is, so trash continues to be a struggle, right? It's not over. We're still trying to stay on it. We're happy that you're experiencing that. Stay tuned.
Listen, our trash, not disposal. So this is just collection, okay? You pay a different number to get rid of it. Our collection numbers, and it's not just us, this is happening all over, almost double. 650 to about 1.1 million, okay? That's what happened like that. Cassandra, our administrator, was with me in my office at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she got a text from the trash company and said, we're not coming in today and we're not coming back anymore. And that's when we build our own trash department, started it all from scratch. So we're hybrid now. We have a private hauler that collects the trash, and we now have in-house that we collect the recyclables and brush, mainly as a backup because the collection industry is so uncertain. We want to make sure we have the ability to fill in if it happens again. Okay, but it's pretty much double. Cassandra?
I just want to make a quick
Our
note
administrator?
on recycling that we are going to be rolling out soon, recycling contamination stickers. So it's really important that people learn how to sort your recycling. It doesn't get rejected. There's a lot of issues, and the cost with recycling disposal has gone up. So there'll be an education campaign about not putting plastics in, and you can't throw out your kid's old tricycle in there and all that stuff. So you'll see those stickers probably spring, summer soon. You have recycling that can't be accepted by us, since it's our guys doing it. You'll get a sticker on there that'll say, this
We're
one's
just
no
not
no.
taking it.
Try
So
again.
just make sure you understand.
Good luck.
We're just not gonna take it, and we're gonna put something there and explain it. Because understand what happens. That goes in with the rest of the recycling, and we go and drive it somewhere. Guess what? It can get rejected. The whole
The truck
thing can get
gets
rejected there. So now the whole thing just goes into regular waste.
Which is an excellent time to consider reducing and reusing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we should make this a state issue, though. Don't you think? We gotta find a way. Yes. Oh, good.
So what I was gonna say is, does the state, Collinswood is one thing, there are other towns, does the state have any overall grandiose plans for better recycling, like composting?
We're a home rule state.
No, before he touches that, let me just tell you, it's not, there's no law to fix it on recycling, okay? The difficulty is markets. Okay, the difficulty is markets. Like plastics recycling was like the thing to do because there were markets to sell it to and people did things with it. Paper, all that, those markets have like dried up, okay? And it's costing us pretty much the same to get rid of trash. There's a shot it's going to get reused, okay? But the markets are just all driven out. It doesn't matter what law we pass. Guys, remember the places down the shore, remember, used to like take the recycling. You hear stories of people that recycling buckets, they would empty them out on the street, and for everything that didn't conform, they would like write you up, right? Like that's too expensive to do, to enforce that. It's now to the point where when they reject the truck, that's now just all trash. And so we have to pay for that. But it doesn't save us all that much money. It's just a good thing. to be recycling it. It's not, you're not recycling because it's saving us a buck. Okay? You're just doing it because it's like the right thing. It's a good thing for all of us to do. Yes, what else? Yes. Yeah, well, it's time. It's coming. It's coming. It's still freezing outside. When it's just cold and all the streets just all potholes again, but it's coming. Warm weather, it'll come again. Hey, I blew a tire out on that one county left one on Cuthbert. I blew a tire out. Called Capelli right from it. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Yes.
I just want to speak to what Rob said in the very beginning about marketing. I love what you said, because we recently sold our house on Woodlawn, and we had been there for 10 years, and it was amazing. Number one, the increase in the price, but people want to live here. We put our house on the market on Friday. We had 16 people look at it. And by Monday, we had 8 offers. So people want to be here. And I think those people need to be told about loyalty. If you can somehow work the loyalty in, because they love the coffee shops and they love the restaurants, but please buy things in the stores that are on Haddon Ave instead of Amazon and all the cardboard boxes I'm so tired of seeing. And, I just think the loyalty is really a good thing. And I think they love it. And they bring, people who bought our house have 2 kids, 5 and 2. They want to live here their whole lives, I think, and raise their kids. Like 80% of the other people who buy houses in town.
A lot of people, including all new business owners too, I think everyone needs a proper introduction to town because we've been on hold for 2 years.
Yeah, but there's also a give back to all that you get.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They just wait. You think you like it now. Like people have just gotten here in the last couple of years. Wait until you see when we bloom again and all of our events are coming back.
It's
And
so
just-
fabulous.
It is. It's unbelievable.
Morgan's been working on getting the Mayfair together. And we were saying that people that have moved in since May of 2019 have never been to a Mayfair.
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yeah.
never been, never happened.
Yeah.
So this one coming up, we get 40, 50,000 people on Haddon Avenue. It's gonna be off the charts. Because we have so many people that have moved in the area in the last couple of years, they don't know what it is.
And you can say 40, 50,000 people on the avenue all day long, and it doesn't sink in until you really go and see how incredible it is. And,
Yeah.
and the music series and the farmer's market and all of the things.
It's also wonderful. I found myself telling a young couple in 2020, I think they moved in to the end of our street. And I said, oh, just wait a couple of years until it all comes back. Like I was promoting it myself because I felt bad for them. They didn't see any of it. But what I mean is in all the marketing
Shop
and
local.
talking and experiential, thread that loyalty in there so that they realize it's I don't mean in a
That's pretty
manipulative.
good. No, that's pretty good. Yeah.
No, you are good, but I think you could use it a little more.
The one thing I always try to make sure is when I meet people, I say, welcome to your town. I don't say welcome to our town,
Yeah.
welcome to your town. And it's yours. And I say that because you not only, you have a responsibility to be
Exactly.
a good neighbor, to, I think it's an important thing, and you're welcome to it. Yours as much as it's mine, and, but, with that comes the responsibility. And it's really the secret sauce of colleges, right? We've never had the resources, volunteers, like all the things that happen through volunteerism, happen through ideas that people have rolling up the sleeve. That's what we do well. We have to keep it up. And quite frankly, we lost a little of it because of the pandemic. We gotta kind of get that back. And we have to have an honest discussion about that, even with this Mayfair. Like, why do the older volunteers kind of, losing them? There's not newer ones coming. We're gonna have to have frank conversations about this and say, if your expectation is past, you might have to change your expectations, or we need to step up collectively. So.
Okay, we're getting near Greenwald's bedtime. So who else? Anything else? We're gonna wrap this up. Yes, sir.
Wasn't there a time when new homeowners had a welcome wagon?
Yeah, it was usually done by different organizations.
I
Did
can
that?
speak to that.
Go ahead.
Proud Neighbors did it for a while. I used to actually deliver the bags and some literature about our organization. And our hope was that people would get interested and maybe join our organization, and they never did. And after 5 years of driving all around town, delivering welcome bags to every new homeowner, and nobody ever joined our organization, we gave up.
Listen, it'll come back. We'll come back. Everybody's gotta, we're slowly getting to the point where, we're going outside now and we're taking steps slowly. People will get back into the drill. There's still, still a lot of I just had somebody in my office just tested positive. And it's like, just automatically like, boom, sets everything off. Like we go back into the kind of shutting it all down again. It'll take a little time. This Mayfair is going to tell you, there'll be a lot of people out, and once people get to see it, they'll want to be involved. Like, I think you just got to get through like that first one. All right, anything else? All right, I want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Assembly Greenwald. Thanks so much for coming out. Okay. Want to volunteer for the Mayfair, or you know anyone that would like to volunteer for the Mayfair, email any of us. We need your help. We would love your help. We have a lot of guests come visiting our home that day, and we need to give them a good time. Okay, so thanks all. Have a great night. Okay, see you later.
Everybody.